Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome. Let's
ma'am.
welcome Mary Beth.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to this awesome community. I'm a member of the community too, so we are together. Okay, so she said she's introduced me. So simply put, my name is Mary Beth Chima. I am an educator. I'm a homeschooling mom. I actually homeschool one of my kids, and generally I am an intentional parenting enthusiast. I'm so enthusiastic about the whole intentional parenting thing because I know it's huge. Parenting is huge. Okay, and then of course I am a parent coach. I am super excited to be here, and today we're talking about having a holistic, okay, having a holistic parenting plan that is an active one, something that is active, because a lot of times we talk about parenting plans. It's one thing to have those goals, is one thing to have a plan, but how actionable are your plans and how holistic are your plans? So that's what we're looking at today. So I'm sure we all know this. I mean, no doubt. One of the most important thing that could happen to you as a person is to be a parent. Okay, it's an amazing thing, and being a parent doesn't necessarily mean being a biological parent to a child or children. You can actually be a biological parent, or you can be a parent of a child that is not biologically yours, so that we're not sectionizing it. I mean, you could be a parent of your biological children, of other children. It's an amazing experience. I'm talking as a parent now. It's an amazing experience to forget how demanding it is, because it's so beautiful, because it's such an amazing thing. A lot of times we forget that it is demanding, and it is something that needs a lot of commitment. So what happens to most of us, or a lot of us as parents, is we we enjoy being parents. We think that, I mean, we do the basic things in parenting, and we are not very committed, and we don't respond to the demands of parenting. And sometimes you can't blame these parents, because some parents don't even know how demanding parenting is, because they are not knowledgeable about parenting. So no excuse. So it is the same thing in parenting. Ignorance is not an excuse for laid back parenting, right? Or parenting that is not effective. So when people, I mean, when we come out like this, okay, when we come out as parents coach, as friends, as teachers, as educators, okay, when we come out, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the knowledge of parenting to as many people as possible. That's what this community is about. Okay, that's what this community is about. That's what a lot of us are about. So I mean, more people get to know about parenting, so we can eliminate the excuse that we don't know, we didn't know, or we didn't know any better. Because hey, as you must have heard, you can't give what you don't have. You need to know what you need to do per time for you to actually be effective, right? Great. All right, so as I said, we tend to forget because we don't know, I mean, we don't understand the demand of the role of parenting. We don't think is one of the most, how will I put it? It is actually a tasking responsibility. It's something that demands a lot of you. It demands a lot of you as a parent, okay? I mean, if the plan or the goal is to train or to bring up or nurture, have who are wholesome, right? If you're to do it from a holistic point of view, then you need more than just the basics, isn't it? All right, now I say a lot of the time to parents that I personally believe that your role as a teacher, right? Your role as a teacher is one of the most important role that you play in parenting. Okay, there's so many things that you are as a parent. Okay, some people will say you are the driver, you are the emergency doctor, you are so many other things. But I personally believe that the biggest role that you have as a parent is the role of a teacher, because from the day the child is born, From the day a child is born, the child comes to you without the knowledge of anything. Okay, as they say it, is it the psychologists will say this is tabula rasa, right? The child comes with nothing. So everything, the perception that your child will have of the world, how your child will view the world, how your child will embrace the world, the mindset that your child has, is that one that you have taught the child. Some will say, oh, when they go to school, and when they go have friends or they go out, other people influence, go have friends or they go out, other people influence them. Absolutely. But those other people influence them because you give those people access to your children. So it still boils back to you. Who are those that you are allowing to influence your children? What is the content of your child's experience? Who are you allowing to feed the content? I mean, who are you allowing to be a part of the content? What are you allowing to be a part of the content? You are responsible for those children. We are responsible for our children. And so everything that they have access to, everyone that they have access to, what school has access to them, what person or people have access to them, what environment has access to them, is what you have allowed as a parent. So turn to the right or turn to the left, turn around if you like, it is still your responsibility. So whatever your child is, whoever your child is, whatever your child turns out to be, parents, own up and take responsibility. It is you. It is you. It is what you have allowed. It is what you have, I mean, if it is what you have brought to this child. Okay, now, if that is the case, then we need to do certain things. There are certain strategies that we need to look at, and there are certain things we need to do. And I believe, and I stand here to say to you that number one, I mean, one of the most important things that we need to do, right, is to create plans, on how to give them the life that they deserve, is to create plans on how to get them from where they are to where they ought to be, like from where they are as children to where they need to be as adults, isn't it? Now, I said, in my view, right? In my view, and I want to believe that a lot of people will agree with me. What our children say or how they talk, okay, it's a reflection of how we speak. Because hey, when they're born talk, okay, so in your environment. So either way, right, it is still you. Now, as a teacher, I can speak because I'm an educator also. As a teacher, right, I do not go to school. I mean, I would not resume rather, okay? I would not resume the term or the semester, right? I won't resume the semester and then walk into my homeroom or my classroom and then walk right to the board and begin to teach the child what it is that I feel like teaching the child per time or that day. I won't do that. It is required of me to probably resume earlier than the children resume. It is required of me to prepare for these children. It is required, I mean, depending on how the school runs. For some schools, okay, the curriculum, right? The curriculum and the scheme is prepared, okay, and then teachers are handed. But for some, from some real authentic schools, I mean, yes, like real authentic schools, right, the teacher is involved in creating the scheme, right? So as a teacher, I have to be involved in creating the scheme based on the curriculum that my school runs. I will create those schemes. After creating the schemes, I will break them down into units, right? I'll break them down into units, into into topics and all of that. And this will be broken down into my weekly lessons. And then from my weekly lesson plan, I will have daily lesson plans. What am I doing? I am preparing to teach. I am preparing to make sure that the child's experience or the child's learning is robust. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I know that for me to take a child from point A to point B, for me to say that learning has happened, there are certain things that I want in that lesson. So let's say I'm teaching the child about the water cycle. right? Let's say I'm teaching the child about landforms. In teaching the child about landforms, I want to make sure that I cover as many landforms as possible. So I want to talk about rivers. Okay, no, I want to talk about a lake, right? I want to talk about a lake. I want to talk about a mountain. I want to talk about a mountain, a valley, a hill, a plateau. I want to talk about all these things. And why would I mean, I have to create a plan. I will create a plan that allows me ensure that I have talked about as many landforms as possible to create the impression of what a landform is in the mind of the child. So if I go there and I just talk about landforms and then I mention just mountains and I move, that lesson is not complete. I have not done justice to that lesson. And as a teacher, I tell you this for free. There are days that teachers come to work, okay, depending on how careless the teacher is. The teachers who go times, they actually go ahead and teach the children without preparing for that lesson. As a teacher, you would know, you will feel it, you will understand, you will know children are not sound in that topic. It is the same thing in parenting. If you don't create a plan, when you show up, okay, if you don't have a plan, where you show up, you will miss certain things. And the bad part is some of these things that you miss may be parenting is you taking no chance, leaving nothing to chance, planning such that for everything, I mean, for every area that you want to teach your children, you want to ensure that you have not left anything out. You are making sure that you are dealing with everything in that area of learning that your child needs to have. And that is the difference between an intentional parent and I mean, in quotes, I'm saying in quotes now, a parent, right? A parent does not create a plan. A parent does not have an action plan, doesn't know how he's going to go about achieving the thing that he wants to see in the child. So what happens is there one day he throws something here, the next day he corrects the child, the next day he's scolding the child, and you find out, I mean, without knowing it, what you're doing with your children 80% or 90% of the time is correcting, reprimanding, correcting, judging. You know, you're doing all of that, but hey, you're leaving the one thing that is important. I am not saying that when you teach your children, they'll be so excellent that you don't have to correct anything. Hey, it doesn't work like that. Even as teachers, we teach and we repeat, and repetition is teaching. Teaching is repetition, right? It's part of teaching, repetition, and all of that. So yes, you teach, and when you teach, you make yourself available to remind them, to caution them here and there. But what I am saying is, bottom line, a child that is taught, a child that is deliberately taught, and it has been taught. That's what I'm trying to say. Good. So let's come back now to parenting plan. Now, as a parent, first of all, I mean, I want to believe, put it in the comments there right now, right? I mean, what is it that you want for your child as a parent? What is it that you want for your child? I can see comments, okay? Right now, I can see comments. So Leanna, if you can see comments, you can put them up so that I can see some of these comments we get in. I want the best for my child. I want my child to be to reach their full potential. I want, we will have all of these, I mean, all of these big dreams that we want for our children. I want my child to be happy. I want my child to be happy. I want my child I mean, there's so many things. I mean, so many things depending on who you are. There's so many things that we would say we want our children to be. Okay, so that's one thing, and that is the first step. So in intentional parenting, or when you're parenting intentionally, what we say to you, remember that when you are training your child, you are not training your child to be a child. You're training the adult that you want your child to become a wholesome adult. You're training a child that will be happy. You're training a child that will find purpose. You're training a child that will live a well-grounded life. You're training a child that can own his or her own, right? You're training a child that can be independent, that can live a wholesome life. That's what you're doing. So the whole journey of parenting, right? The whole journey of parenting is moving towards that adult that you want your child to be. So what you want to do right from the beginning is create the picture of that adult in your head. When you're able to create the picture of the adult that you would want your child to be, the person that you would want to see when your child is 20, 20, 25, 30, 40. Okay, the person that you want your child to, you would want to see in your child at that point. Now, because this is the person I would want to see in my child, or this is the person that I would want my child to be, what do? I would go. Now, after that, you sit down. So automatically, that can become your goal. So your goal is to bring up a child that will be A, B, C, D, right? So you have, sorry about that. Sorry. All right. So your goal is to bring just a goal. Okay. It is just a goal until you decide to commit to it. So the next thing after having that goal is to commit to that goal. The question you're going to ask yourself is, how am I going to help, support, direct, lead this child, train this child towards becoming this person? At this point, action comes in. At this point, action comes in. So at this point, you begin to create the action. I mean, you begin to put down the actions, or the things, okay? And you begin to put down the things that you need to do to get your child to become that person. And now this is where all that we do here, this is where all that this group is about. This is where all the knowledge comes in. You need the right tools. You need the right strategy. You need to know. You need to understand the child per time. Okay, so now the child is this person when the child is 20 years old. What can I do at two? I mean, what can I do when the child is 2 months that is heading towards what I want the child to be when the child is 20, right? And how can I go about it? So before you can know what to do, or before you know what to do, you would have to understand the child at that point. You want to understand how the child's brain works at that point, what it is that you can do with the child at that point. So that's why I said that parenting is demanding, because for every phase of the life of your child, there is what needs to be done. So building or training a child is like having building blocks. It's like when you see the children create, I mean, with their building blocks, right? And they're trying to create something. That's how it is. At two, there is something you need to do. By the time the child is three, there is what you need to mount on what the child. So the foundation is very important. And then what happens is we continue to build on those foundations. Okay, you continue like building blocks. You continue to connect the blocks until we get to the point where that adult that we closed our eyes and assumed, right? That adult that we saw when we were thinking of our parenting plan, that adult we saw when we're thinking of what our parenting, I mean, what we hope to achieve with our children will come alive. But it takes the building blocks coming one on top the other. And for you to get these building blocks right, for you to know what to do per time, then you need to stop and think about it. You need to stop and use all the knowledge, all the arsenal that you have, all the tools that you have as a parent, right? You need to put it together. You need to think about it. You need to gain more. You need to get help where you need. I mean, all of these just so that you are mounting the right block on the previous one, and then the next one and the next one. Okay, and the best way to do this is to create your parenting plan. And apart from just having those goals that you have, you need to create actions, right? You need to think of the actions that will carry your goals to achievement. I mean, to an achievable point. And when you think of those actions, put them together, and that becomes your parenting plan. So, very key. It is very important that as parents, we have parenting plans. Some people will argue with you and say to you that It's not a big deal. You people are too serious about this parenting thing. Parenting is intuition. Parenting is instinctive. As soon as you become a parent, the instinct will just kick in. Let me correct you. As soon as you become a parent, the instinct that kicks in is your love for your child. As in, as you see, I mean, the moment you hear that cry, the moment they hand you that child, you just know. I mean, like I'm assuming that I know that can never be deterred. A love that I know, I mean, that is selfless. I mean, I just knew that I would love this person without holding back anything. So that kicks in. But at that moment that they hand you that child, the knowledge of what to do with the child does not kick in. It doesn't kick in. The knowledge, knowing that child does not kick in. I know how the child thinks. I know what the child wants. I know no, it doesn't kick in. That has to be learned. That's why mommy came for Mugo. Okay, that's why your mom came for Omugo in the first place, because she doesn't need to teach you how to love your child. That will kick in, but she needs to teach you how to breastfeed correctly. She needs to teach you how to wipe correctly. She needs to help you so that you can get the hang of all of this. Someone needs to teach you. In the same vein, you need to learn what to do with your children per time. So knowledge is very important, right? And then you need to, if you are going to be intentional, you need to go one step higher to create plans. Okay, so I'll tell you a bit of my experience. Okay, so now when I got married, right, when I got married, coming from where I was coming from, my childhood experience, right, my childhood experience of my what's it called now? What's the right word now? Coming from my background, right? My background and all of that, right? I knew a lot of things that I wasn't going to do with my children. Right? I knew a lot of things that even as a young woman, even as a young woman or a single woman, I could tell that could have been done better. My parents could have done better in this area or that area with me. I knew that, there were certain things that didn't quite, come together, right? So I knew I wasn't going to do some of those things with my child, right? But I didn't know all the things that I would do. I knew what I didn't want to do with the child, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with the child. But there was one thing I came with. I knew that I wanted my children to be ardent readers. I wanted them to love reading for leisure. I wanted them to embrace reading. I wanted them to love reading. Now, knowingly or unknowingly, right? This was a goal. Because for me, I came with this at the back of my mind, right? I didn't just leave it at that. Even at that point where I wasn't in quotes intentional per se, I didn't know so much. I didn't have all the knowledge that I needed, right, as a parent at that point. But hey, I knew for one that I wanted my children to be ardent readers. So what did I do? Luckily, I met my husband, and my husband was one also. He already had a robust library and all of that, and we shared books and talked about books and bingo. So hey, perhaps that was one of the reasons I even decided to marry him. I don't know. But basically, we had that in common. So what happened is, by the time my children came, I've told this story many times. I bought my son's first set of books when I was 6 months pregnant. So when I was 6 months pregnant, I would read his books to him. I would read books to him. I would have conversations with him. I would read the book. I would even go ahead and talk about the character in the book like we were having a conversation. I did all of that. Okay. I did all that with my child and all that. So by the time my child landed, there were books, right? We had a library that was there. So he grew up seeing a library right there in the corner in the living room. For every time we moved house, the library was a constant. So he grew up seeing the library right there. I read books to him from when I was 6 months pregnant. And I read books to him every day. I read books to him as far as, if I missed, it was because something came up. But we read books. We read bedtime stories. I read bedtime stories to him every day. So it wasn't a surprise, right? It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance that by the time my son was 2, he would pick a book. He would actually go to the shelf. So we had his section right in the reading, what do you call it, in the library, the shelf. The lowest part of it was my son's books, so he could actually go there and pull a book, and then read, just play with the book and all of that, even though, and then from that he graduated to picture reading and all of that. Okay. It wasn't long, because before, I could understand the books that he really loved, because he would pick those ones over and over again, right? So he would read those books and all of that. And right now he's 11, and you need to beg. Sometimes I have to sneak into the room. Sometimes I have to go into the room, at 10 o'clock, when he's supposed to have gone to bed, at 8:30. Sometimes I have to sneak into the room, and I'll see him struggling, to use the lights he can see around to read a book. So sometimes in the night you hear us, have our quarrel. It's like, you are supposed to be sleeping, not reading. Do you understand? Hi. Hi, Seliasu. All right. So sometimes it's like you're supposed to be sleeping, not reading. So I have the problem of saying stop. Why some people are struggling with reading at all. Now, but see what this is. Exactly. So see what this is. Even as a young mother, even while I didn't have it all together, reading was a goal. And I didn't just leave it as a goal. I had an action plan. Right? I had an action plan, and I was doing something about it, right? And then we graduated from just having the books. We started buying books monthly. So I had a budget. We had a budget for books. So at the time, he got 3 books. He got 3 books every month. So at the end of the month, I am shopping for tomato and pepper and shopping for meats, right? I was also exactly. So I was also shopping for books. And it became a habit. So at the end of the month, the kids will actually ask me, Mommy, we've not bought our books for the month. Or when are we buying our books for the month? So basically, because I was deliberate about this part, that's the one thing I knew. I was deliberate even before I got into my whole intentional journey. I was deliberate about this. So it wasn't a surprise, right, that the first book I wrote was actually bedtime stories for champions. I wrote, yes. So we had exactly. So we had read so many books, and I got to the point where of course, I became more intentional along the way. Okay. And I knew that there was more to be done, not just in one area, but in many other areas. So I delved into all of these other areas. So at the point I started, I became focused on purpose. I became focused on my child finding. I wanted him to focus on that thing that he's good. That God-given talent, that thing that came easy for him and all of that. So at the point we became focused, inspire him. He needed people who inspired him. So I got researching. Young people who are doing amazing things, young people who are already impacting the world, because purpose is a big thing for us. Okay, it's one of our core value. Okay, finding purpose and impacting the world. So impact is a core value. So I started researching young people who are already impacting the world and all of that. So as I made this research and I discovered more and more young people, I was amazed, and I said to myself, it's not enough to just read these, tell the stories to my son. I want to have a document of it where he can pick it on his own and read, and then of course I can share with other parents. And that's how my book, Bedtime Stories for Champions, right? So that is what birthed Bedtime Stories for Champion. All right. So that's it. All of this tied to the fact that we had a plan. So even bedtime stories for champion is part of the plan, because for a particular year, I was about him finding purpose, understanding his purpose. So for 2000, and I think it was 2018, one of our, I mean, top on our goal, right, for that year was for my son to understand purpose, impact, and why he needed to find his purpose or be on the path to finding his purpose and impacting. So for that year, I made this collection. That's when I started putting this collection together, so we could read a story monthly, and we could research that person, read the story around that person, all because it was part of our plans, basically. All right, so you want to say something there? Okay, I can't even hear you very clearly. Can you? Okay, okay. I can hear you now. Exactly. All right. So I can shoot, right? Can I go on? Can I shoot? Can I continue? Oh, okay. All right. So, I mean, at this point, you'll be asking me. Okay. So, at this point, you'll be asking me the question like, okay, how do we create goals? How do we go about creating goals and all of that? So, I already said, look at it together, the picture of the children you want to nurture or the children you want to train. Okay. When you do that, after creating that picture, make a list of what it is that you want to achieve with your children. Make a list of it. Two, after making the list, now have a conversation as a family. You, your spouse, and then the children. Okay, assuming that your children are old enough. Now have a conversation with them and hear from them. You know something? I mean, what would you like to do with yourself? What would you like to do with yourself? What would you, it's a new year, especially. It's a new year, right? What would you like to achieve next year? Okay, let's talk about it. So you could do that and you get perspective, you get their perspective and all that. Now, after doing that, then taking a notch, right? Take it a notch higher and then create different, different goals, or create different areas that you want them to look at. Okay. So I would say, the first time my son came of age, I said to him, so basically, close your eyes. What would you, at 12 or at 15, what would you like to see in yourself and all that? And then he said to me, okay, he would like to have an auto, what do you call it? He would like to create cars. He would like to build cars and be an auto engineer. He would like to be an auto engineer. He would like to create cars and all of that. I'm like, to build up so that you can get to that point. And then of course he got stuck. Okay, I will create models, and all of that. So that's where you come in. Okay, so that's where you come in and begin to help the child. You begin to help the child. How does he get there? So that's where the yearly plan, the monthly plan, the short-term plans, or the long-term plans come. Now you have picked the child's brain, or you've had this conversation with the child, and you already know where the child wants to go, right? You already know where the child wants to go. The next thing is for you to create action. To create a plan, or to create attach action to that plan. It needs to be broken down into short-term and long-term goals. Okay, so when you break it down, then you begin to create what they can do in 6 months, in 1 year, and we continue to build on that. So for us at the time is, then you need to do a lot of math in school for now, because he was in year 3 at the time. So you need to do a lot of math. You need to take math go, depending on the child's age. So basically, you have them create academic goals, right? So that's it. It's not only your academic that you need to get to where you are going. You need to work with God on this. You need to talk to God about this. You need God, you need God directing you. You need the Holy Spirit directing you. So what do? We're going to create spiritual goals also to go with this. So the spiritual goals will come. Oh, okay, we're going to read Proverbs. We're going to read 2 or 5 chapters of Proverbs every day. Okay, you said that that's a spiritual goal. I'm going to make sure that I am always, I'm going to make sure that I'm always, thriving to live a holy life. How are you going to do that? I would make sure I resolve my conflicts with my sister. I'll make sure that's a goal. So basically, the plan is to make sure he can deal with his conflicts with his sister and with his friends, resolve conflicts on your own. So that becomes a plan that you're going to, and it's something that you want to work on. So that takes care of the spiritual goal. Now, for you to own an auto company in the future, you need to build relationships. You need to build relationships. You need to do internship at some point. You need to learn to connect with people. So that forms a reason for social goals. So they have to create goals around relationship and all of that. So you create goals. How do we create these goals? Okay, for now, I would have to learn how to break the ice. I want to break the ice every time I have conversation with people. I want to meet people and be able to break the ice and start up conversations. So we said that. So basically, you're teaching the child. So in your teaching, during the course of the year, you're teaching the child. You will create experiences for the child to meet new people. You will have it. You will have it in your conversations. How to start a conversation with people when you meet them and all of that. So it leads you into teaching certain life skills. Basically, when you're able to create these goals, it leads you to create, teach certain life skills, all aiming towards something. And hey, remember, this is your child's goal. He was the one that found all it takes to get. Exactly. So you're breaking down all it takes for him to go there.